Welcome back to Daily Standup, and today I'm just going to get right into some of the load testing platforms that I've been using for this application. So one of the more popular load testing platforms is called JMeter, and load testing is basically when you have your API, it exposes whatever endpoints it does. You have to make sure that API is capable of handling very high throughput, so concurrent users. What's the latency look like? What's the response time? What happens if 1,000 users are hitting the endpoint at the same time? What is that doing to latency? Are we getting any timeout errors, anything like that? Because sometimes what happens on an application, if you have all of a sudden a spike of 50,000 users, some of those users might get a 500 error back or some kind of error return from your server, while other users may not be, and that's just a scalability issue, right? So in the architecture meeting, I went over how I'm splitting the backend into its microservices to help alleviate this issue. And microservices, again, for in the context of uptime, right? You can duplicate microservices to always have a near 100% uptime as possible. So the application I'm using is called JMeter, and JMeter is just a Java app, and it basically allows you to load test your APIs. There's some weirdness to the application for sure. Again, it's just a Java app, so you'll just go ahead and download the binary for whatever machine you're working on. For me, I'm on a Apple MacBook Pro with one of the M chips, so specifically the M3. So for me, I had to download this binary here, Apache JMeter 5.6.2 TGC. I downloaded that, and then you should be able to navigate to the bin folder of the download, and then run the Apache JMeter .jar file, which launches or should launch the application. Now, to get there, you have to have Java installed on your machine. So if you're not sure, you can just type Java. Is it dash version? Something. Yeah, Java dash version, and then you can see I have 21.0.1 installed on mine, and as well as the you should have the Java runtime and everything else you need. So you're gonna have to go and download Java first if you don't already have that, and again, it should add it to the correct path on your environment variable for your system. Assuming that's all set up, you should be able to just go and download this file and bring up the application. Now, originally I tried using Homebrew to install this, and you can just type like brew install JMeter or whatever it is. That actually didn't work. It would like load up for a second and then crash immediately. And I found somebody talking about it on this thread on GitHub, and they said that, can you please download from this? So I tried that, and it works. So I'm going to probably give this a thumbs up later and respond. But so that I had to download it, like this person was saying, from the actual link itself, and then it would work. So that's what it did. So no issues there. It took a second to get up and going. But once you have that installed, I'm going to kind of walk through the application. Again, it's very, it's not intuitive at all, unfortunately. I think there's paid equivalents to this, but this is free. It's open source. It's super popular. It does everything it needs to do. So I tried looking on like the Mac App Store real fast. There was one for like $40. I'm sure the UI is a little nicer, but I'm not spending $40 on something. I mean, you could build this yourself theoretically, but I mean, who's got time for that? So I'm going to walk you through this. I've already loaded a configuration that I'm using, so I'm just going to load that, and then I'm going to go from what I did. Basically, I just renamed it to be Two-Stroke Engine, which is the API I'm using. And first thing you have to do is you have to right-click, and you want to say, okay, I want to add a thread group. A thread group basically represents like a collection of users that is going to be that are going to be calling your API you set up. So once you have a thread group set up, you'll see a bunch of options. I left everything pretty much out of the box. The things that we're going to be specifically focusing on is the number of threads, so users. So in their context, or a user is a thread. So I put it at 50,000. I'm not going to run 50,000 right now. I'm going to dial it back to 5 just for the sake of this video. Ramp up period, 5 seconds. I've read some mixed things. I believe this is like, it's not a set in stone duration. I'm kind of confused about what ramp up period is. It's like, I don't know if it's time between requests or if it's time between when you actually hit start to, I don't know. Or it's like, it might be like a delay between requests. Who knows? You can look that up yourself. I'm no expert on JMeter. I just like know enough to like get it up and running and load testing my API, and that's really all I needed to do. And then loop count, how many times you want to repeat. So in this case, if I were to set this to 1, all it would do is it would run 5 requests and then stop. So for my case, since I want to do load testing, I want to put it as infinite, so that way it'll just keep sending 5 requests all the time from 5 different threads. So that's all really I set up on my thread group. Another thing is you have to hit save on this very explicitly to save it. Otherwise, you're going to lose all your stuff. So, I think it's like that icon. Save. Make sure to save for sure. Next odd thing you have to do is right-click thread group and add. And then I went ahead and go into sampler, and then HTTP request. So you get a ton of stuff. But we need an HTTP request. Pretty simple. So that adds this drop down here, and then you can call it whatever you want. Doesn't matter. For our case, again, this you have to set up the web server part. And because I'll show you what I'm load testing here. So I'm going to go ahead and back into my the front end portion of my project. I went ahead and added actually just like a bad or like just a test weather controller here. That I could call and spam with my load testing just to make sure I have my JMeter set up before I actually get into the actual engine API once I get that set up. So this is what I'm going to be hitting. Again, I just added this. This is not actually what I'm going to be using in my application, but again, while I set this up, I need something to call. And I'm not ready to load test the actual engine API yet. So, and if you're confused about that, you can go back and look at previous videos and see the code behind that if you want. So anyway, so that's running on this port here. So localhost 63390 and then HTTPS. So that translates into protocol HTTPS. Server name is just localhost, and then port number is the port number. Like when I first would come in here, I thought the path was accepting all that, so I tried to put the path as localhost dash, whatever, and then port number, but it's not. So you have to do all that, and then obviously whatever HTTP verb you need. We're just doing a get, and then the path for me is API/weather. And I have no authentication set up. If you have authentication set up, you'll have to set that as well. But we're not there yet. But when we get there, I'll show you how to do that. So here's this. So let's actually go ahead and run this. Okay, wait. Before you run this, this is also the other crazy thing. I don't know if it's just me. It's very possible, but you have to explicitly say that you want to view the results tree. And the results is just that, is the results from the test that you just ran. For me, if I didn't explicitly set that, I couldn't see the results, and I didn't know if it ran successfully. I didn't know what happened. So it's buried. It's buried, though. So if you go to your help, and then you just type in results tree somewhere. Watch it not even pull up when I'm trying to do this. So I'm back, and I found the setting. It's super buried, and it changes if you load a pre-configured file. It changes where the setting is, which is just absolutely mind-blowing. So if you go to edit, assuming you've saved your configuration file and you've loaded it, you can go to edit and add, and we want to go to add a listener. and then we can say view results tree, which we might actually want the summary report too. Yeah. So we want to add both of these, and I don't know why it doesn't add that to begin with, because this is like the core thing that you need to see. But anyway, so that's where you find it, and if you can't find it, if you type in results tree on the help, it should point you there, assuming you haven't loaded in the configuration file. You can kind of see how this application's weird, but again, once you get it set up, it's like you're golden. You're good. So that's what we got, and I'm gonna go ahead and run this just to show you. Is my API running? Yeah. All right, we're good. So let's go ahead and run this, and we'll go to my results tree. Oh, is it picking up? Hold on. I think I might have. Oh, shutting down. Hold on. I have to wait till it shuts down all my threads. This is another thing. I don't know if this is just the Mac one or what, but this save. Oh, did I not? Oh, I'm sorry. I loaded the configuration again. Okay, now I'm going to have to. Okay, this is actually a good entry point as well. This is as real as it gets. So you have to open your activity monitor. And for me, since I spun up 50,000, or I tried to spin up 50,000 threads, I pretty much broke my Mac. So if you go to your activity monitor, it seems like the shutdown doesn't work from JMeter's end if you kind of overkill it on the threads, and you can see my memory's spiking like crazy and everything. You got to go and look for whatever your driver is called. For me, it's new driver, or whatever your JMeter instance is called, and you can see how many threads that it has kind of captive there, and then you're gonna have to kill that. And you can see my JMeter quit, and I'm gonna boot my JMeter back up. So it should have released those threads. I'm gonna open recent, open the configuration file, and make sure we dial this back down to 5 users. And we have no threads being held captive. Let's try to run this again. And I'm going to actually just loop through it once just for the sake of, and then save. You have to save. You don't want to miss save. So you can see that it sends a request successfully, which is excellent. So you can go here to your view results tree. You can go to the individual request, and then you can see the response data. That's what I'm returning back. And you can do that for all of them. And then the summary report will show you how many requests it's sent, so number of samples. You can see the throughput and everything like that. 1.3 seconds. Pretty interesting. Obviously, I have not done any kind of modification at all to this kind of fake endpoint. So now if we really want to see what happens, let's dial this up to 500, and let's put it on. Let's just let it run. So we'll put it infinite, save, and then we can run this, and then you can see it's spinning up a lot of requests, and none of them have errored. And you can see this, see that. You see the total request being sent. You can see the throughput, so that's saying how many per second. Okay, so it's telling us we're doing. Is that correct? How is that? Throughput. I have to look up what that. So number of samples. Is it saying that? Is that just dividing it by the total time it's taken so far? I think so. I don't know if it gives you like a latency, because that standard deviation max, or can you? Okay. We may have to look up how to view total like response. Is there like an average response time? Because I think that's just saying how many requests it's sending per second. But we're not getting any errors, which is good. I wonder if we can save response found. Okay. I'm gonna have to look up. So let's go ahead and stop that, and you can see I'll let go of those threads. And the 0.21 error you'll commonly see when you kill the request, because it still has some that it tried to send. And that's all really that's from. So it's kind of a neat tool. You just have to play around with it and get your configuration set up correctly for your needs. But I am going to look into if we can add a metric for if there's like an average request response time, ideally I would assume in milliseconds, and that's kind of what I'm trying to see, unless they're calling. Can't imagine they're calling received. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look that up. But why this is helpful is that if you were to go and let's clear the report, basically that just wipes out your last session. And let's go ahead and dial this up to 5,000 users all accessing my API at the same time. And let's go save and run. So now we should be seeing a lot of requests come through. Let's go and navigate our API. So again, this is what's giving us our information. You can see how long of a refresh that takes, which that should be almost instant. Obviously the React stuff is going to load because that's already just in the DOM. But anything that's going to take a lot of time. So if I were to call my API on here, you're going to see it takes a little bit of time. So I need to get an actual specific number, but you can see how that took a lot longer. And then so if I kill this, it's not going to, okay. It's like if I get up to a high enough number, it just blows up. Let's try to dial this to 8,000 users on my machine and just see what happens. So let's go ahead and hit save, and let's turn that on. So we're sending 8,000 requests roughly, and we didn't clear the last session. That's okay. I just want to call this and then see how long it takes. So API/weather. Is that going? Okay, so that one went pretty fast. That was a little slower there. So definitely lagging a little bit. Now it doesn't seem like it just because it's a super basic API, essentially not doing anything. But you can see just a little bit of tick up from users can delay a little API like that pretty easily, right? So I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna stop this. I wonder if it's going to let me shut down the threads. Again, if JMeter's thread shutdown doesn't work, just go to your activity monitor and just kill the task. Or just, kill the process that it's running on. So in my case, it would be this new driver, and you can see how many... actually, I'm kind of curious that it didn't refresh to show the actual threads. I wonder if it's... Well, anyway, that's what I would kill if I want to stop it. But you can look at the summary report and do everything like that. So very, very neat. You can see how many requests were sent a second, which is pretty cool. And yeah, so very, very, very powerful application. Very helpful for diagnosing API issues. And basically an absolute essential application to have, if you're doing any kind of API development, because it shows you what kind of throughput your thing is going to be able to handle. And it shows you how much you need to refactor and the importance of separation of backend from front end, because if this was an actual legitimate API and the latency started to tick up, you can see the delay it would have from the UI trying to call something on the backend. If one of the backend APIs is just getting spammed by, only 8,000 users. So that was only 8,000 users. Obviously, it's running locally on my machine. 8,000 users isn't a lot for systems. Imagine if that was, 250,000, or if it spiked in the morning for like 1 million. You can see the importance of this, right? So that's why an application like that is super powerful, and it's absolutely essential that we we use that for our refactor purposes. Like you don't just want to guess. You can't just say, oh, I think it's going to handle that. Probably not, right? So that's what we're getting into, and I have to make a ticket for us to do that. Now that we're back on. How do I do this again? Okay, I just hit add. Yeah. So we're in progress. I should have done this. We shouldn't be adding this in progress. Hold on. Let me. We want to do load testing, JMeter setup. Oh, it really did autocorrect to, okay, JMeter setup. So this ticket is going to be download and config JMeter, which we did. Why we need to load test our API, and done when we have JMeter running. Man, the autocorrect is killing me on this one. All right, cool. So that's basically done, but I have to track time on this, so it's going to be in progress. And in progress is the next prototype for backend data pipeline extend. Okay, so we're working on Q. I've started the Docker container portion of it, and then I just have to get the message bus. Okay, perfect. So that should be in progress still. Honestly, next video I'm going to move the JMeter setup to done, since we have done that. And yeah, but let me know if you have any questions. I'm not a JMeter expert by any means, but just getting through like the initial configuration of it and just being able to use the application, because you can pass it whatever URL you want. If you have an application being hosted in your some kind of test environment, whatever system it is, you can use this application to load test it really easily. And the summary report's super helpful. Once I don't know why, unless I'm just missing a setup step for that, but I have to look to see if I can add that. Because I basically what I'm asking, I want to see it if I want to see the upward trend, right? As more requests are being sent, what's the average request response time? That should be ticking up, right? And that's what I'm trying to see. It'd be nice if that was a graph. That'd be super cool. Because everyone's looking for metrics, right? Like another reason is this would be really helpful, right? If you were in some kind of, if you have a meeting coming up with, whoever it is, right? And you're discussing the need to scale your system or whatever like that. This is a super powerful tool, because if you get a requirement and you say that, okay, we know that during this time of the week we're going to be getting 500,000 users all calling this API endpoint we have, you could come in here and literally just toggle this up to 500,000, assuming your system can take it, and then see what happens. And then you get a summary report, and then you can go back and say, hey, look, this is the error rate we're seeing. This is XYZ, and you can give that to somebody and they can visually see it. And sometimes that's a little more helpful justification to people rather than just saying, oh yeah, we got to refactor the back end, because nobody wants to hear that, right? But if you can show them why, and you can show them numbers and have them actually maybe even try to work on the system as you're doing the load test, you can't beat that, right? So this is a really good way to do that. Again, it's free. It's open source. You can play around with it. There's a massive amount of configuration that you can do, but for what we are doing here, that's pretty much all we need, aside from random stuff I got to figure out. But anyway, that's JMeter. That's what's in progress, and I will see you on the next one.